Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So guys, I have monstrous and bad news. Ed Shultz, the big bear of a man that's sitting right here, standing right here, is dead. Ed Shultz is dead. Ed Shultz was this lefty lion. Whereas MSNBC, for the most part, wouldn't talk about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, didn't want to talk about Sanders. This bear of a man was. I'm trying to figure out where it is on here. He did. He wanted to talk about it. So much so that he says MSNBC fired him from his job because of it, or at the very least he believes that part of the reason he was fired was because he support for Sanders and that he wanted to cover Sanders. My knowledge of Ed Shultz, or at the very least my adoration of Ed Shultz, reaches its peak during the fights with Scott Walker. I gotta be honest, I love this. Because this is politics done from almost like an armchair where the unions are pitting themselves against Scott Walker. And at the helm of one of the networks is Ed Shultz, who's there on the battlegrounds screaming, "Charge!" going after Walker with the unions behind him. Loved it. This is how politics should be run. Now, no, I don't necessarily want each and everything, to try to pull somebody from a real call campaign. But politics. Real politics done in a way where they're literally taking people out of their seats for not representing the interests of the people in Wisconsin. And in many respects, he was successful even though he didn't get Walker. Loved it. Just so we can know what took place. I'm sorry to say this, but I use this image of Ed because I want to remember him as a soldier. I mean, and not this kind of I want to remember him as he was. He's a person. All people have their own feelings and everything else. I don't know what those are. I only knew Ed from the standpoint of the helm of that desk. And not just the desk itself, even going to the point of going to the site of Wisconsin in order to hold down what was taking place. Fucking magnificent sight. Let's take a look at the details of what took place from the standpoint of his passing. And we can go to the way I want to remember him. Ed Shultz dead, 5 fast facts you need to know. God, I wish they said it in a different way. Ed Shultz, former MSNBC and Russia Today host, has died at the age of 64 from natural causes at his home in Washington, D.C. WDAY was the first to report Shultz's death on July 5th. The station mentioned that prior to becoming a national broadcaster, Shultz had been sports director at WDAY. His professional career began at Fargo, North Dakota in the 1980s. An RT America statement on Shultz's passing said, "We at RT America are sad to announce the passing of Edward Andrew Shultz. Ed Shultz passed quietly early morning, July 5th at his home in Washington, D.C. This announcement comes as a shock to all of us here at RT America." The West Central Tribune report of Shultz's death mentions that in his youth he was a quarterback for Minnesota State University, Moorhead. Shultz was a native of Norfolk, Virginia. Oh, wow! He's a native son here. And grew up in Larchmouth. He graduated from Maury High School before moving to attend Minnesota State. Let's see. I don't care what they say about him. I care what he does. Let's take a look at this. This is Shultz. Battlegrounds. Look at how happy he is. He is potentially going to get his talons in Scott Walker's hide. You must understand, he's unabashedly for labor. Unabashed. Put a mic in his face and he's going to tell you something about labor. That in and of itself should make you proud that this man walked the earth and was in your corner. Listen to the joy in his voice as he's going about trying to rip Scott Walker out of his seat because he understands that this to some degree is war. And that Scott Walker is somebody who's against his vested interests and the interests of the people who Edward represents.
Nation is watching as 6 Republican senators fight for their seats in tomorrow's recall election.
MSNBC's The Ed Show is broadcasting live tonight and tomorrow from Madison. The host himself, Ed Shultz, joining us live from the Capitol Square. Welcome back to Madison,
Welcome back, Ed.
Susan and Mark, it's great to be with you. I appreciate it very much. This is politically as hot as it can possibly get in the dog days of summer. Our Ed team at MSNBC has been waiting for this one all summer long because I think it's a microcosm of what is happening across the country. When you take a look at the attack on the middle class in this country and the kitchen table issues that are facing American families, this takes us right to the heart of the issue. The attack on collective bargaining, a very aggressive agenda that maybe the people didn't think was coming, health care, pension, wages, taxes, tax breaks for corporations in the top 2%. I mean, Wisconsin, I just want to tell you, you have it all politically. It's a story we just cannot push aside. We're glad to be here, and it's going to be a barn burner tomorrow.
And how much do you think this is going to be an anti-Walker vote one way or the other?
Well, I think that Walker is a figurehead in all of this, and he has been an impetus for the agenda. But I think that the school teachers that I've talked to, the firefighters, the police officers, the people that are really affected by all of this, I think that they're really concerned about their future, whether it be Walker or any other governor. And I also think that Wisconsinites, from what I've been able to gather, talking to them, they see what's going on with Christie in New Jersey, Snyder in Michigan, Kasich in Ohio. Senate Bill 5, of course, is now on the ballot for November. And then, of course, what's happening down in Florida with Governor Scott. So you have this group of Republican governors that have been really influenced by a lot of outside money and have brought forth a very aggressive agenda against working class families. And it's ironic, the birthplace of collective bargaining is where it's all unfolding in your state. It's a heck of a story.
Well, how significant do you think, Ed, politically, is what happens in Wisconsin to the rest of the country?
Well, I think it's a confidence builder. I mean, I really do believe, Susan, that this is a template for how to fight back against extremism. You have to have boots on the ground. You have to have the social networking. But most of all, you have to have the passion. And what has been so intriguing about this story is that this has gone on for months. I mean, we went through the cold days of the winter and the constant protests, and then the minutia of the possible roadblocks that were put up, and the due diligence of going through the spring. I mean, this has followed through the seasons, and here we are in the dog days of summer, and it's decision time. And if Wisconsinites can come out in droves tomorrow, which I think there will be a big turnout, even though it is more than rare to have an election at this time of year, I think it's going to send a message, to the point of your question, to other people around the country because of the hard times they're going through in Michigan and Ohio. Senate Bill 5 coming up, which could be recalled in November. I mean, it's going to give, I think, a lot of people confidence that your government is still within reach.
I agree. Ed, they lost that vote to some degree. They lost that vote. They did get some of the Republicans out, but Ed's main goal was to get Scott Walker out, and the union's main goal. It's not, I'm saying Ed's, but the union's main goal was to get Walker out. They wasn't able to get Walker out, but they were able to get 3 of the Republicans out. I kind of want to leave it on that part. Your system is not out of your reach. It's as close to you as you want it to be as interest, if I'm being honest. Look at what's taking place from the standpoint of immigration and Trump. Donald Trump doesn't give 2 shits about anything. And yet there was enough public pressure for him to actually change his disposition on immigration. So much so you even have Republicans pushing for the immigration plan. Think about that shit. Public interest matters. The political system is frayed, it's decayed, it's ossified in the way that it's gone, it's creaking, there's rust all over the place. But it's there. It's there. It does work, especially when there's public support pushing behind it and the energy is going through it. It works. Not the way it is now. Not the way it is now, but it has the potential to work. I want to leave it with that. Ed Shultz, dead at 64. Natural causes. I was told that apparently he was ill at some point. Because my thought was, what the hell are natural causes to a person who's only 64 years old? But nevertheless. Yeah, I'll end it here. That's a big loss. I like that. Ed grew on me. And this right there, That was one of the things that made Ed grow on me. There's a few things. His pushing for the TPP, meaning going against it when the people on MSC was for it. His pushing for Sanders, going so far as to say that they might have fired him because of Sanders. And his open mouth, full-throated, no hedge, you don't have to push him to get there, support for labor. For us. So, Ed Shultz is dead. Long live Ed Shultz.